like to get together in person twice a year for our AGM in the fall and then our Town Hall in the spring. This used to be called sort of the informal meeting. Neither of them are terribly formal, but we don't have any motions to pass today. It's really more of a state of the nation and an open dialogue around some of the issues that are going on at the club. There's really no better time than Family Day for us to get our community of family and friends together to do that. So I'm going to just walk you through the agenda that we're going to have today. There we go. So I'm going to welcome everyone. Then we're going to have a short video in a moment. Then James Mathers will come up. He's going to have some opening comments for everyone, followed by Jeff Courtemanche. Dave is then going to be talking about strategic decision making. Dave is vice president of the club and will be taking over as president following James. We then have some awards presentations, and then we're going to have a bunch of time at the end for Q&A and any discussion items that you may have at today's Town Hall. Just so everyone knows, this is being live streamed on our website, and it will be recorded and stored on the governance section of our website. So if you know someone who wasn't here and they wanted to see it or participate, please direct them to check in there. It's a great way to stay informed in all of the activities of the club. So there are so many great things going on this year. We have expanded Alpine programs. We have a very busy social agenda with many of our events sold out. We have the best snow on the escarpment, and of course a new social media strategy. So we're going to kick off today with a short video that provides an overview of our amazing facilities and some of the team here at Craigleith. James, you would have seen a lot of great content like that throughout the season. If you are not signed up to our Instagram channel or on Facebook, please get yourself signed in to follow. There's been so much wonderful content where you get to learn all about all the club's operations. So I'm going to hand it over to James Mathers.
If I didn't want to break myself, I should have break-danced across here. But thank you, Megan. It continues to be an honor and a pleasure to serve as president of our club. I join Megan in welcoming members to this meeting, whether they're here in person or on the live stream. And on behalf of all of our members, I want to thank my fellow directors, the many other members who volunteer their time at the club, and our management and staff for all that they do to make the club such a great place for all of us. At this time last year, we met in the South Lodge, and I announced the board's decision to pause the planned expansion of the base lodge. That was based on the significant cost gap between the cost estimates for the expansion as planned and the amount that the board felt comfortable borrowing for the expansion after allowing for the potential cost of other capital expenditures, notably those relating to lifts. The pause was and continues to be the right choice. We can now make decisions with more certainty to build the lodge and the on-hill infrastructure that will enhance the experience for all members. Since then, the club has hosted the hugely successful World Ski Cross Finals, and we've received word from Alpine Canada that we're likely to host the event again soon. We've completed the wonderful new depot in which we meet today that has such great acoustics, and we've replaced the bar at the base lodge, and as Megan said, we've enjoyed a great start to the new ski season despite the challenging weather. The new season has brought exceptional engagement for all members in on-hill programs like GDHL, in social events, and in social media. Meanwhile, your board and the management have taken the opportunity afforded by the pause in the base lodge expansion to gather information from members and other sources to validate the goals of the expansion, explore options for achieving what members want while living within our means, and generally planning for the long-term success of our club. Now, directors often hear comments from members to the effect that the size of the club has grown significantly of late. I'd invite you to read the detailed commentary on the subject in the club's annual report, which, like many other things, is found on the governance page of the website. The subject's actually more complicated than you might imagine, but by the red badge count that's been the club's benchmark, the membership hasn't grown significantly over the past decade or more. Now here's a graph showing the number of paid member red badge holders at the club's fiscal year end over the last 10 years. There have been fluctuations from year to year, but the long-term average has remained pretty constant with a slight upward trend amounting to a total of 3.9% over 10 years. Now this is, of course, the paid member red badge holders, and we had a vigorous discussion at the board about whether we should continue to count legacy badge members who now don't pay an annual fee, but this graph does include them. We have now sort of reached and slightly exceeded the target maximum that we have of about 3,100. We're expecting to be about 3,124 at year end. We certainly have no plans to further increase the membership, but the projections, as I say, are that the number will decrease slightly from last year, and the board has concluded that no dramatic steps are needed immediately to make a change to our membership base. Remember that having a few extra members helps to spread the costs that all of us share in paying. The club's capacity is certainly a key factor in the consideration of base lodge expansion plans. Lockers in particular are a key focus as we consider the next steps. While every member who's asked for a locker has been offered something, we have a very long list waiting for family cupboards, and resolving that is a priority. The board and management are currently developing methods of measuring the club's capacity beyond simply the number of members. Dave McDonald will talk more about this later. We recognize that if members are more engaged in the club, it will likely feel more crowded, even if the number of members hasn't grown. But please remember that continuously attracting new members is a key to the club's long-term success. This isn't just a financial matter, although that's very important. We also know that on average, new members are the most enthusiastic supporters of our Alpine programs and social events. Almost all new members, of course, join because they know existing members. And it seems to me it follows from that existing members are encouraging others to join and enhance our community of family and friends. Another thing I've heard recently concerns rumors that the board is planning to impose an assessment of $10,000 per family. Now, I can think of recent instances in which that figure has been referred to in a different context, but I assure you there is no such plan in place. Please be careful what you believe and be more careful what you tell others. Planning for the cost of capital assets over the coming years is a major part of the board's agenda currently, even without the base lodge expansion. I hesitate to guess whether that or the price of beer gets more time, but I think the cost of capital assets is far more important. At the annual meeting last October, J.F. Courville showed us some charts relating to the cost of replacing our 5 chairlifts over the next 30 years. The total cost depicted was almost $69 million based on 3% inflation of the prices that we had at that time. That's almost $50,000 per current family for chairlift replacements. For comparison, the Comet lift was installed about 10 years ago at a cost of $3.4 million, or less than $2,500 per current family. The $69 million figure doesn't include snowmaking equipment, groomers, and interim upgrades for chairlifts, let alone the base lodge expansion. But I should caution members about figures they may hear from time to time, because if anything, the estimated cost of lift replacement has increased since October, but we are constantly seeking information from many sources to plan for and manage the costs effectively over a 30-year period, and the information gets dated quite quickly. I heard some encouraging news to counter some of this information quite recently, but again, we're always seeking and planning to try to get the best information to provide for the long-term future of the club. I don't mean to be alarmist about this. The club has achieved great things in the past. We've amassed a very impressive array of capital assets, which have cost about $55 million over the years. That represents almost $40,000 for each current family. Now, some of that money came from the sale of the orchard and the sale of the slopeside village lands, which can't be repeated. So we'll have to plan carefully, especially in this inflationary period. The board and management are intensifying the focus on the planning that's been done in the past, and I'm confident that we can budget and plan effectively. Funding of these kinds of capital expenditures comes primarily from initiation fees and capital levies, as well as occasional special assessments. In recent years, the revenue from initiation fees, which are currently $49,000 for a new family, has been approximately $2 million annually from an average of 36 new families. That's about $1,400 for each existing family each year. The capital levy was previously $150 per first member, and it was increased to $250 per first member this year. As a result, the total annual revenue from capital levies has increased from $330,000 to about $645,000. But that's still less than 1/3 of the annual revenue from initiation fees. It's evident that nobody wants to pay assessments, but I hope it's also evident that if we don't increase the size of the membership further, and we want to keep room for our intermediate members to become full members at much lower initiation fees, we need to consider relying more on the annual capital levy as a source of funding for these major capital expenditures. The board considers that a more even accumulation of funds than assessments is more equitable than having periodic large assessments, and allows members to better understand the cost of membership over time. There's been no final decision relating to this, but I anticipate we might move to a model in which the club's long-term projections and plans are updated annually, and a capital levy is adjusted accordingly, recognizing that we're dealing with a long horizon and many variables. It's much like a condominium reserve or a pension fund is managed. In any event, greater emphasis on the capital levy should be expected. Now, a model that relies more on capital levies wouldn't guarantee that there would never be assessments or borrowing. In the short term, any base lodge expansion would require borrowing and would require an assessment or other fundraising if we were to carry on with the full expansion as originally designed. This additional reliance on capital levies is driven by lifts in particular, which are the most expensive part of the on-hill infrastructure that members value above all else at the club. While the cost inflation that we've witnessed in recent years has been disruptive, it's not unique to the club, and it should cause us to be realistic in our expectations and thoughtful and thorough in our planning. The club has an awful lot to be proud of in its past and a great deal to anticipate in the future. Let me summarize the points that I want to leave with you. First, we have no plans to increase the membership, except as you saw, it goes up and down from time to time through normal fluctuations. We have no plans for an assessment. The cost of lifts is increasing dramatically. Careful planning is required to manage future capital needs, and a greater emphasis on the capital levy should be expected. I'm now going to turn the microphone over to Jeff Courtemanche to talk about the present, including some projects that are planned for the coming summer. And I must say I feel much more comfortable today that summer is going to start in May and not in March. And then Dave McDonald will discuss how the board and management are gathering information to plan for the future. And each of them may say a little bit about the price of beer. Thank you very much.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is my privilege to once again address you at our Town Hall meeting of 2024, and it's my honor to be your general manager again. On behalf of the 450 staff that are at the club, I'd like to take this time and introduce you to the management team that works with me in running all aspects of the club. I'll ask them to briefly just stand up so you know who they are, but please hold your applause till the end. Our operations manager is Tom Cavers. Tom joined us, this is his first year at Craigleith, and he's already establishing himself as Tom the Legend, and has been responsible for all the great conditions we've been able to experience this year. Okay, I tried to hold the applause for some of the others, but you know. Leah Parks, Assistant Operations Manager, is back at Craigleith after a 2-year hiatus. Leah is one of the youngest Class A ski lift mechanics in the province, and we're lucky to have her back at Craigleith. Leslie Case. Leslie has joined us as our member engagement manager, and you'll know Leslie as she's the author of all of the social media videos we have. She does the surveys that you may have had to fill out for her, and she's providing tons of data through our RFID system to the board of directors to use in their decision making. We're missing Zishal Khan. He's our HR manager, and like I said, with a team of 450 at the club, he's been busy hiring and making adjustments to all of our employee policies, and of course rehiring as we need to replenish our employees throughout the winter. Christy Barron is also over at the Base Lodge now with all the young kids running another social event. Christy does the social events, the midweek groups, and if you've seen the downstairs, the kids club that's going on every Saturday and all through the holidays, it's just fantastic what she's doing with all of the programs here at the club. Jeff Dawson has been with the club for 60 years, and Jeff runs our development Alpine program, so all of your kids at one time or another have passed through Jeff's hands in the proper way. And his son, or through his wife Sonia, who most of you will know as well. Then there's Dave Campbell. Dave is our Alpine program manager, and Dave runs the largest Alpine program in North America here at the club, with well over 1,000 participants in it every weekend, and having to manage the staff of all the coaches and instructors is quite a feat in itself. Maya Perevsky is the treasurer, accountant at the club. Maya's been with us here for 10 years, and your money's in good hands with Maya. Every penny I can attest is accounted for, and she's kept the club on a solid financial footing. And the lady at the end of the table we all know is Natalie Bennett. Assistant General Manager. And Natalie reacts to the multitude of concerns and adjustments by members and by staff here. She handles pretty well she's involved in all aspects of the club, and she has the dedication and experience you only get with 30 years or more of experience at the club. I won't say quite how many, but we would be lost without Natalie here. So that's it. Quick little operation. Ooh. Wrong way? Yes, those, okay. Just wanted to go over, we had a great start, as you all know, through the season. The club was the envy of the escarpment. The operations team did a fantastic job making all the snow, getting the runs and lifts going, and being able to keep everybody out on the hill where we really want to be. We had a big advantage at Craigleith. We have an automated snowmaking system, which we started installing in 1992, and previous boards and management have all been instrumental in continuing to upgrade and improve it over the years to where we are now. The club did get a new groomer this year, and we've noticed an improvement in our grooming, I believe, across the property with the new technology of the new groomers out on the hill, and I think it's paying off dividends for us. And our operations team is certainly recognized across the escarpment as being one of the best anywhere in providing the conditions that we all enjoy so much. A little bit on where some of your money is going to go next year. On our capital projects, we're adding 12 more of the large big yellow fan guns, snowmaking guns we have across the property. We have found these guns to be incredibly efficient for us. They allow us to produce more snow in a shorter period of time. The snow quality is excellent. You can ski right through the snow when it's being made at -2 or -3. They don't create big piles that have to be pushed out, and it's a positive direction the club is going with those. The other investment we're making is to add 50 double-head snow guns. So on all of the towers, we have over 500 tower snow guns across the property, and on 50 of them we'll be doubling up the heads up top. It's new technology that just came out, which allows us to essentially have double the production from any gun, and so we're trying out 50 of them next year, and we hope they'll be as successful as our trial with them this year was. The other project we'll be undertaking next year will be the addition to our existing maintenance facility, the big yellow building over there. It was built in 1992-93. At the time, I think we had 3 groomers and 1 tractor. The equipment club has now is considerably more and more extensive. We've run out of place to store all of our equipment and to work on it as well, so we're adding some additional space that's well needed by our maintenance team. As well, we'll be changing out some of the pipeline on the property. It only lasts for so long, and every year we do a pipeline replacement at the club. Just a little bit about our finances at the club. If I can find it. So the club has an operating revenue of about $8.8 million this year, and 4.6 of that comes from your dues. 2 million comes from Alpine programs. Of course, the Alpine programs has an offsetting expense of about 2 million as well. And the additional revenue comes from ticket sales, locker fees, food and beverage commission, lodge rentals, miscellaneous incomes, interest incomes, and interest on accounts. So out of the $8.8 million, we have about 735 this year budgeted to be left over or as our operating surplus. Out of that 735,000, it goes into what we call our maintenance capital budget, which is our budget to replace existing maintenance capital at the club. This will include snowmaking pipe replacement, snowmaking pump overhaul, lift upgrades and maintenance, hill grading, hill padding, mobile equipment, and other. We usually have about 15 lines that make it up, but these are the main ones we're spending money on. Just a little update on our operating costs. Over the last 4 years, I have 4 accounts listed up on the screen. We have 200 of them that we analyze every year. So in these 4 accounts alone, our insurance has gone up 220% in 4 years. Fuel, 210%. Hydro, 165%. And operating depots costs us about $120,000 a year. So this represents $660,000 of additional spending over the last 4 years alone. With our food and beverage, we've heard you, we're listening, and we're making improvements. We've hired FS Strategy to assist us in making the right decisions with our food and beverage at the club. FS Strategy has a lot of experience working in the private club industry and hotels and restaurants all across Canada. On the escarpment here, they've worked with 4 or 5 other private clubs to help them with their food and beverage offerings. So before, as a committee and a management team, often we feel we know what we should do, but we felt at this juncture in our club's history, let's hire some professionals to come in here and guide us in the right direction, and that's what we're doing. I have to end with a happy picture. And so tomorrow, please, I'll see you at the lifts at 7 in the morning as our sunrise ski. If you've got any connections and can bring that set for us like we had last year here, it'd be very much appreciated. But that's all I have to say, so thank you very much. Oh, and I'll pass the microphone for Dave McDonald.
Thanks, Jeff. So, Craig, you'll be there tomorrow morning? Where's Craig? You'll be there, right? All right. I'm going to picture you guys. And for the rest of you, that was the lineup at 7 a.m., so I look forward to seeing the crowd out tomorrow morning. I want to now talk a little bit about looking into the future. And as James has pointed out, I'm pleased to say that starting next fall, I'll be taking on the mantle of the presidency of the club, and I look forward to serving you for the next couple of years. And as I thought about that, and I thought about our comments today, I thought about the future and what we want to focus on. And I don't know how many of you saw it, but the Vancouver Sun published an article yesterday. And not only do we have like the best snow conditions on the escarpment, but if you look across the country, and those of you who've been up to Whistler or other places, you find that we actually have some of the best conditions in Canada. And in fact, across the United States, we have one of my friends who's at Aspen and said that when he came back, the conditions were better at Craigleith. And so, you know, it's important to recognize that we have made very difficult decisions and very big capital-intensive decisions in the past. And the Canadian Ski Resorts Association, in that article, suggested that over the next 50 years, 75% of ski resorts in Canada could be out of business. So think about that. And it'll all be because of climate change. And many of you know Grouse has not been open. Grouse Mountain, Cypress out in Vancouver has not been open. The conditions have been tough at Whistler. And so where we are going in the future and how we make decisions is what I want to spend some time with you on this afternoon. And I also want to make the point that, we'll be making decisions that will be important to the club, but very important into the future when you consider the backdrop of what I've just described, the biggest threat being climate change for us and how we make sure we have great skiing going into the future. So that's why I've selected this picture, somebody sitting on the depot, a few people looking out into the future. And so what I want to talk to you about is the various ways we're bringing data and information so that we are making the right decisions and we're looking forward with the right aperture on our fiscal policies as it relates to the club. So the data that we are getting is both quantitative and observational. So the RFID data, many of you don't know, but in your badges is an RFID chip. And so every time you get on the chairlift, every time you enter into one of the lodges, it actually tracks that. And so that's allowing us to better understand the usage of both the lifts and the facilities. And we do have a good privacy policy, which I know James would be happy to take you through tonight, if you're interested. But we are gathering a lot of data from an RFID perspective. We're also gathering a lot from an observational perspective. So Leslie's spending time in the lodges, watching basically what goes on, particularly through the lunch hours, and determining, where are the friction points, where's the pinch points of our cafeterias, our lodges, and how long does it take us to get a beer. We also are doing Jonas surveys. So out of the Jonas system, there's been over 5,000 surveys sent out this year so far. And that Jonas system is the app that we run the club on for all of the members' experience. And the return rate is 30%, which is fantastic, by the way. It's one of the best return rates I've ever seen. And so that's another way we're gathering information. And then we did the focus groups, which I'll talk about, where we had over 80 people talk to a facilitator in this building in January. And we have in the past done member surveys, and we'll continue to look at using those to help with our decision making. Against that, I want to talk to you a little bit about something we've done at the board lately, which is develop a better understanding of our member segments. And so, as James indicated, our new members are generally the ones that are the most engaged. So we're really looking at the segments of different members and their activities and how engaged and what they're engaged in. And what that's allowing us to do is get a better understanding of the needs of the various members and getting a more refined look than just the 3,100 people who have red badges. And so you'll hear from us some terms like active families who are involved very much with the Alpine programs as their kids are in that zone. And those are the kinds of information and personas that we're using to better make decisions so that we can understand how it's various in a more refined and more micro manner than we have in the past. Additionally, surprisingly, we do have a 50-year business model, which Peters loves to run numbers through. And it's absolutely looks at the number of members, it looks at the interest rates, it looks at inflation. And so we are actually modeling 50 years into the future against all of this data and against our member personas in order to make decisions. And so when you hear us say we're going to do something like 12 new snow guns, it's done in the context of a 50-year plan. So we plan to be among the 25% of the resorts that will be open in 50 years from now. Now, just to give you an example, the focus groups, which we did, we had over 80 people participate in that, and there was in 8-minute sessions. We had an expert professional that was in from Ipsos. All of that we'll be publishing it up on our website, and it was very helpful for us to clarify both members' expectations and what they want to see in the next little while. Our goal was to both understand what is the membership life expectations and what their experiences are, as well as getting feedback on various scenarios. And so we asked people to spend $100. How would you spend it? Would you spend it on lodges? Would you spend it on schools? Like that. And so that allowed us to get a better understanding where people would like us to invest. The results are right there on that page. And Charles, who's the gentleman from Ipsos Reid, is a PhD in customer satisfaction and research, said it's one of the most engaged and positive set of focus groups he's ever done. And so he was very impressed with how happy many of our members are and how important Craigleith is in their lives going forward. And so that was a great thing to see. In addition, on Hill, experience was the priority based on everybody's feedback. And so that was a lot about lifts and snowmaking. And I don't think that's any surprise to any of us, particularly given the start we've had to the winter. A lot of focus on family and social connections, and obviously, the après bar scene came up quite a bit as being a very part of the Craigleith life here on the Hill. And then food and beverage was something that we got feedback on, and we'll talk about that more refined when I get into the surveys. The support for a $10,000 assessment, I don't know where that rumor could have come from, James, given that we asked 80 people if they wanted to spend $10,000. Didn't receive a wide support, so we were trying to understand where people were from their perspective, and that was something people definitely weren't too excited about. And then there was a lot of questions about what are the various facilities and lodges we have, and what are we doing with them. For instance, where the depot fit into things versus the base lodge, the north lodge, and so we'll be working on that in the next little while. As I mentioned, from a member survey perspective, we've done over 5,000 of these with a 30% response rate. The base lodge overall gets a very high feedback of 4 out of 5. The cafeteria 3.5 out of 5, which is one of the reasons why Jeff talked about us bringing in a consulting company. And the bar 3.5. Now I think this was taken before the price of beer was adjusted, so I think we should probably have a little happier group then. The depot overall has been very well received, and so it's got a score of 4.0 and 4.1 from the cafeteria perspective. And I don't know how many of you have been over here. How many of you have been in the depot at lunchtime? Okay, this is just an outstanding place to be. I mean, the youth in here, the kids running around, all the lunch baskets on the table, it's fantastic. The feedback from the young families associated, obviously, because the nursery's here, they can see outside the gathering area, they can see the magic carpet. It's just outstanding, and we continue to feel like this has been a great investment for the club, and it's really providing a facility that was never available to the young families before, and I think it's proven to be a great investment. So that feedback is very good at the depot. The special events, for every event, how many of you have received surveys? Okay, so keep filling them out, that's very much appreciated. So the grand opening was a lower score than we would have liked, and that was a 2.0. The welcome back après, which was January 6th, was a great event, 4.0. The adult dance party, 5.0. And those flashy running shoes, how many of you saw those? Those are available at $250 on eBay, so you can get those. And the Wine Fest, what a surprise, 5.0. I hear the Chianti table was the finest. 30% of the verbatim written out feedback in the surveys is about pricing. And so we've done benchmarking across the escarpment particularly, and we actually think we're in pretty good shape now with adjustments at the bar and the rest of the food, but that's something that will certainly be looked at by the consulting group that we're bringing in. This is our FID data, and I just want to show you, this is January the 6th, and these are unique lodge visits. The gray bar is the base lodge, the blue bar is the depot, and you can see January 6th, which is usually one of the busiest, if not the busiest years of the 9-week program. For the depot. And we get into this, we've got this data by hour, etc. And so we're really able to actually use this to understand what we're doing. And you can see there's, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? And we know that Saturday's the busiest and Sunday it slackens a little bit by about 20%. So that data absolutely reflects the usage of these two facilities. and we'll be able to monitor this on an ongoing basis. And you can see here, it was just a little bit higher than January the 6th. So a lot of that's weather dependent, and these are visits. So if you go on in, one of the lines that captures this information. The observations that are done basically on a subjective basis with Leslie and her team. The base lodge obviously is very busy at lunch with 5% available seats. And so it's the tightest from a lunch perspective. Lodge, and it's important to recognize this, is still occupied by about 300 people, mostly instructors and coaches. And it's about 70% full at lunch. And we provide no food there, so it's people bringing in lunch baskets, etc. But when we think about moving forward, 300 people who are facility, we have to think about from a destination perspective as we look at our lodge expansion strategy. North Lodge is still used quite a bit by racers, but seats are widely available. So for any of you looking for hot chocolate to warm up when you're out there at that part of the hill, it still offers lots of room. The depot, as you can see, it's really, and as I mentioned, it's full at lunch, a lot of young families, lots of lunch baskets. The lower level is quite busy in the morning, and the boot up area outside of the lockers is very busy. And so what we've learned from that is, in spite of higher density of lockers, we'll still need space to put the boots on. And so we have to consider that going forward, because as James has mentioned, one of our biggest issues is lockers. And right now we're spending a substantial amount. Obviously the family cupboards are big and they're roomy, but they're a very expensive use of real estate. So we're learning something from the depot usage of the smaller lockers that are in the basement of this building. Now here's the national chair, and this is based upon hours of the day, and you can see from 8 a.m. We all know what that is, and that's when the programs get on, the national chair, when the kids are getting on. That's the colors are based on 6th of January right through to the 4th of February. And you can see it's pretty consistent. And so, and I would, of course, when people talk to me about we think there's too many members, it's all because everybody wants to get on the chair at this time, right? And that's at 10 a.m. And so either go earlier or later, and it's substantially less. But this is the kind of data we're gathering. It allows us to make decisions about the lifts and the capacity we need on an annual basis, and will ensure that when we make these tough and big financial commitments, that we'll understand what we're doing. So as you can see, this is clocked right through to 3:30 p.m. and we'll after lunch, obviously, quickly declines. And so this is a difficult business when you're $10 million capital investments for something that's basically for about an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon. So that's what we have to balance and look into. The list summary is obviously Little John and the National are very busy, and Little John is particularly troubled because every time we have to slow it down because the kids have to get on or fall off. It ends up creating longer lines. And so those are the bottleneck chairlifts, and it's 9:30 to 10:30 and 1:30 to 2:30 are basically the times of peak usage. And if we look at the common funnel, they share the program start for the U12, so there's less lineups. I was over skiing on funnel this morning, and there was a few times there was a bit of a lineup, but mostly hardly any. The V, where there's no wind on that hill, no wind, is a non-existent line. All right, keep it our secret. So I just want to conclude with this very important point, and that is that when we think about all these decisions and we look at this data, look at the way we're segmenting our membership, and we look at the 50-year plan, we're really mostly focused on the future. Right? These are the kids that I think about when I think about the decisions we have to make. And when we think about the on-hill conditions we have and the capacity, the facilities, I think we have to really make sure we aren't thinking about just personal pocket, but what it's going to be like for our kids, our grandkids. That's the real audience that I think we have to understand and make sure we're making the investments in to support. And it's hard because they're not here to provoke us, but I want you to think about that as we go forward in our decision making. So thanks very much. I look forward to working with you, and appreciate everybody from the management team providing this kind of data.
All right, so we're going to move to the second part of our agenda. We're going to have some awards that we'd like to recognize. So I'd first like to call up Chris Crow, who is going to present the Director's Award.
So am I just presenting it to her afterwards or handing it to me? I'll give it to you. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to start this out by telling you that we're a superhero among us. No, she doesn't wear a cape, although I wouldn't put it past her to have one hidden somewhere in these facilities. And no, she doesn't fly, although if you've seen her orchestrating a club event, I'm pretty sure you'd strongly question that last part. I'm talking about Brianna, our very own facilities maestro. And she's the invisible force at every event at Craigleith Ski Club. When I first heard that Brianna was going to get this award, I thought, well, of course. And then immediately it was followed by, are you sure she's going to give her this? And I'm talking on her behalf. For those who may not be aware, Brianna and her team don't just run the facilities, they perform daily miracles. Let me paint a picture for you. The Craigleith Ski Club circus, and let's sometimes it was like it. She'd be the ringmaster, she'd be the trapeze artist, she'd be the lion tamer, and possibly the person selling popcorn too. She's the one who nods and calmly says, sure, we can do that. No evidence. When someone's utterly bizarre, can we have ribbon dance fall from the ceiling in Base Lodge, please? She and her team make it happen. But here's the real magic. The next day, there's no trace. No evidence of the madness, no impossible feat that just took place. Brianna, I don't know who it is, but make this place run. I think it's important for you to know how much we appreciate what you do. You're the backbone and the wizard behind the curtain. With that being said, and while she has erased any evidence of last night's shenanigans, can I ask that everyone here make sure our appreciation of her is known, heard, loud and clear. So where is Brianna?
I think Leslie's going to take a picture. Congratulations, Brianna. Thank you, Chris. I'd now like to invite up Mel Deeks, who's going to present the Bowie Award.
Yep. Hi, everyone. The Bowie Award is presented to a member for outstanding contribution to the club behind the scenes. These recipients are the backbone and unsung heroes of the club. They have character and an unwavering sense of community, things we all value in spades. Last year, we had two members that made contributions so remarkable they received international accolades and helped place Craigleith on the map as a ski racing mecca. As many of you know, 2023 hosted the world with the World Cup Ski Cross Finals, an incredible honor, but a huge undertaking. With the tireless efforts and competence of these two members, the season went off as described by the International FIS organization as the best event of the season. This year's recipient was the Chief of Volunteers, who was characterized as outstanding as he oversaw close to 200 volunteers. And the other recipient was the Chief of Course, who was instrumental to all things inside the fences. Great events like this don't happen by good looks or good luck. They happen because of good people like these two. So congratulations to, and thank you from all of Craigleith to this year's Bowie Award recipients, Paul Vincent and Peter Dyson.
Congratulations. And last but not least, I'm going to invite Paul Smith up, who's going to present the President's Award on behalf of the President and the Board.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be presenting this award on behalf of the current President, James, the Board of Directors, past presidents, and past board members to Brian Athy. I think Brian promised he would be here today, so. I first met Brian about 20 years ago in his backyard in Leaside. I bought an Optimist racing sailboat from him for my kids. And over the years, Brian and I have crossed paths. We're both in the same industry. We both have engineering backgrounds. And I've sat in the audience like this, watching at industry events, watching awards being given out that I've competed for, and Brian has won. So he's not just winning this award, but he's a very accomplished guy and well recognized in the industry that we're in. We're very lucky to have had Brian's attention, focus, and time put into the development of the Project Generations Plan, our Bottom of Hill campus, and delivery of the depot building that we're in today. So Brian, if you could come up and accept the award. I've actually got I've actually got a second thing for Brian. It's a commemorative photograph and plaque recognizing Brian's service on the board. So he joined the board in 2016 and served until 2022. Typically, board members put in 4 years on the board, and Brian agreed to stay on for an extra 2. COVID kind of struck us in the midst of the delivery of the project, so Brian agreed to extend his period on the board for an extra 2 years, which was great. And I might say that Brian continued beyond his board service to continue to lead the building committee. And I can say that there isn't a week that goes by there isn't an email from Brian supporting the management and our consultants and the board on issues that continue to evolve on a building like this. So Brian, thank you very much for your service on the board.
All right, we're going to move to the Q&A section. Before I begin that, Natalie sent out an email earlier this week asking for any questions from people online. So we do have a few to get started. But I do want to read an email that came in from a member today who, and I think given the honor to Brian and that we're here in this beautiful building, should be read. Because this individual wasn't able to make it, but they did want to communicate just how special they felt the depot's been. We've made new friends here, and it's provided a space for us to let in a private social environment. So many families of young kids have gravitated to this lodge and share in the sentiment as well. Well worth the investment. When you think about it, it's quite remarkable how quickly it's become part of the Craigleith fabric, and members embrace it, particularly with young ones. So a great example of people who saw the future, made investments, and we're realizing those benefits today. So we're now going to move into questions. There is a microphone over here, and we have someone ready to go. So why don't we go ahead?
My name is Andrew Barrett, and I'm on the Infrastructure Committee at Craigleith, a role I appreciate being able to contribute on. But I'm here to actually ask my question about... yeah, I didn't think it was on. Didn't sound on. My name is Andrew Barrett. I'm on the Infrastructure Committee at Craigleith, a role I very much appreciate contributing on. But my question today relates to project generations. I'd like to encourage the board to officially declare project generations closed. The reason I'm asking you to do that is for a number of reasons. One, you've done a great job developing and building a great building that the club is enjoying, so you've accomplished a significant feat. Secondly, this isn't possible anymore. We can't have the plan in here for the money that's in here, so the approval to do this kind of lapses now because we can't do this. We passed a bylaw change that requires 55% approval to do any major project involving a financial commitment of the club, whether that be assessment or large capital levy increase. And this was passed with 51, so it's stale dated. And finally, we've closed the chapter with congratulating Brian on the great accomplishment that he and his team did here. I think it would make a big difference to the temperature of the club if we called this closed, continue to work on ideas, but committed to bring forward a mandate for future approval should we want to do anything in the future. The board would consider closing it. I think the temperature at the club would sit down and we'd be able to move on to other tasks much more efficiently and in a much more efficient manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. That message has been received, and we'll take that back. If there's any questions, if you'd like to come to the front, you want to come up, or I can repeat it if you prefer. There we go. We're all friends.
Matthew Roberts. I have a question about the Little John chair. It's very difficult with my big ass to get on that chair with those things coming down. I know they're adjustable and they should be adjusted to the edge of the seat and the kids will still be safe. Right now it's not inclusive to all members to sit on there. I have to go up with another person or by myself. I can't go up triple.
So I think management will know that, but thank you for that feedback. That's very helpful. I'm going to go to one of the questions online, and if there's anyone else, if you just want to come line up over here, then people can come on up and ask a question. Well, there was, in the light of Andrew's earlier comments, one of the questions we did receive online, Paul, I'm going to point this to you, was where do things stand with Base Lodge expansion and the removal of South Lodge? So maybe you could just comment on that.
Thanks. So project generations that Andrew was referring to included several elements. One was the construction of this building, the demolition of South Lodge, and the expansion of the Base Lodge. So we sort of split this into two phases. Phase one was this building, which has been completed. Phase two was in demolition of the South Lodge and expansion of the Base Lodge. So we stated last year that we've put on pause phase two so we can better understand what our financial position is and what the costs of that might look like. We've undertaken some redesign work for the Base Lodge expansion, which is posted on the website. So we came up with a smaller footprint expansion concept, which is by no means a final plan. That's still under consideration. Certainly the demolition of Base Lodge will not happen until we have found a solution to replace the usage of that building. The ski school is occupying that building. There's about 300 seats that are occupied at lunchtime on Saturdays there. So we've identified a solution to those seats. We're not demolishing the existing South Lodge. We do know that there's sort of three big problems we have. The kitchen in the existing Base Lodge was meant to be expanded under the Base Lodge expansion plan. That's not yet happened. Our kitchen in the Base Lodge is smaller than it needs to be. Seating, as I just mentioned, is a big problem, and lockers and ski storage are a big problem. So we're still working on concepts and possibilities to address that. An expansion of the Base Lodge is still a possibility to hopefully address those things. But again, the South Lodge is not going to be demolished until we have a solution on the Base Lodge. I've heard many people talk about, do we need to get rid of the South Lodge? Is there another thing that could be done with it? Could the second floor be taken off? Maybe we should just demolish it away. It still is an active service, but it's an out-of-date building. To plan for that building to remain in service for the long term would require significant capital investment. If you ski past the building, you'll see that the exterior siding is finished. The windows would need to be replaced. The roof needs to be replaced. It's got a leaky foundation. Mechanical systems are done. The electrical systems need to be replaced. So a big investment in that building does not really make sense in terms of long-range planning for the club. So we're still working on it. We're not making any decisions immediately. If an expansion of the base lodge was to happen, it would not commence until the summer of 2025. So we've got some time to, take all the information that we're receiving and continue to work on that plan. Thanks.
Sorry. All right, Carrie, you got a question. Come on up.
So my question kind of goes off of that. If the South Lodge is still in active service, how come members aren't allowed to use it outside of ski school hours? Sorry, how come members aren't allowed to use the South Lodge outside of ski school hours? So we're not allowed to have any events in the South Lodge, and it's been kind of kibosh that we're not allowed to use it. Why, if it's still in active service?
Do you want me to take that one, or do you want to take that one, or do you want me to take that one? I'm happy to answer it on best from a social point of view, if you like, because we've talked about this a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So I think it may not be quite accurate to say that members aren't allowed to use it. There are a number of members who have chosen to keep locker space there. Obviously, upstairs. Yeah.
The social area.
Okay. But in terms of social events, the desire was to use this place. It's more efficient for the caterers. It's much better space, and it's just proven to be a great place for events and the kinds of things that the club has done very well in these first few weeks that we've had it. We want to make sure that we transition away from it and we understand how things are going to unfold and how they would be if we didn't have the South Lodge. So we don't want to keep people using it more than is absolutely necessary. But as Paul has said, we do recognize that tearing it down while we don't have plans to accommodate the uses that are remaining in there would just be premature. Do you want to add anything?
Sure, I can add a couple of comments. Just I'm chair of the social committee on the board, and I know this topic has come up a few times, Carrie. So, I mean, we have the two new spaces this year, and what we've been trying from a social programming point of view is use the future state, being the depot, the North Lodge, and the base lodge, so that we can actually learn what is the additional demand we might need. So all of the programming is done in those, and those are all of our licensed facilities. Really the only rationale why individuals want to use the South Lodge is because it's not under the licensing of the caterer. So any of the times that happens, we tend to defer those over to North Lodge. So the rationale is for us to actually learn to use what we have. These are our core member spaces, and that is absolutely dedicated to our Alpine Programs group, and they do use it lots of hours, whether it's early in the morning for program when the instructors come in, or for later in the day when instructors get together sort of to plan for the next day or to socialize. So that space has been dedicated to Alpine Programs upstairs. Next question.
Hi everyone, Paul Manius, thank you. I wanted to say thank you to the first speaker. I couldn't have said it better myself. I do, and I was going to echo those comments, so I'm happy they're made. I do want to kind of draw the board's attention, though, to the statement made around the need for potentially higher capital levies, and just point out the fact that the reality is whether we call it investment or whether we effectively increase our capital levies to such a point where we're effectively replicating the assessment over a couple of years. think the reality is the same. I think you're hearing from some of the membership, large portion of membership, that as said in some of the presentations, I think accurately what members here is on-hill experience. I think the club, frankly, has done a wonderful job this year, especially with really bad conditions, so that's to be commended. But I think, you know, playing around with what we classify expenses is another way to get this. You're here or not. So I want to say that. Thank you. It is. Yeah. So I've got one more. Sorry, I've got one more question. And Mike, if you wanted to come join, or Mike supports us. So specifically with respect to 9-week programs, so both of our daughters are in the same program. Some hiccups early on in terms of registering our group, which is fine, and mistakes happen. However, there was something that came up earlier this week that I just wanted to kind of, again, bring the board's attention to and ask maybe if we could put a little bit more effort in it. The 9-week program is effectively the same 9-week program every year. I mean, with you know, a little bit of variance, we do the same thing at this club every year for our, you know, for our early racers, for our kids. And it would be really appreciated, I think, you know, from a parental standpoint, if we could have a little bit more advance notice around, you know, certain things. Yesterday we got, thanks, yeah, we got an email like at 8:30 with classes starting at 9:30. The kids needed their slalom gear. They'd never prepared for it yet. My daughter was in tears because she'd never pulled guards on. So I just, you know, this is an area, I think it's really low-hanging fruit where, you know, we can, with a little bit more organization, improve an already great program. So thank you.
I think we'll give that feedback over to Dave and so forth. I know we've been working a lot on communication, so I think that's that we can take that going forward. Thank you. You want to come on up and ask your question?
Hi folks, my name's Karen, and my husband and I now have lockers in the lodge here. We're really happy actually with the way the lodge turned out. Great visibility on the hill, the cars are wonderful and all. My concern is, you mentioned about retiring or semi-retiring the old South Lodge. And quite honestly, we frequently eat our lunch in there, we bring it all and whatnot. Although we have to truck down a floor or two to get our water, we're okay with that. And you're trying to transition the old base lodge to the depot here, understandable. But the concern is food facilities aren't available here a lot. Even today, friends, 12:30, 1 o'clock, couldn't get lunch here. The bar is only open on Saturdays. I get some of the cost concerns. However, if you're going to try to promote it, I think it needs to be available. So if you're going to start a new lodge and retire an old one, you have to make the new one accessible for every aspect that you're offering.
Thank you so much. I'm going to give that feedback to our Food and Beverage Committee, and you guys can take that in terms of planning for next season. Okay. Mr. Pope, come on up.
I think they do this to make it more daunting to ask a question. They bring you up front. I'm sure the microphone really does work in the back. But anyway, so, I mean, what's interesting is, and I'm sad that there's not more members here, quite because the informal meeting is the best time for membership to engage with the board directly. Put you a bit on the hot seat, which is quite frankly where you should be, right? As the board, you're accountable to us members. So the question I have is, we're hearing a lot of feedback. In fact, Dave, where's Dave? Dave McDonald. Your presentation was outstanding. It tells us that the priority is the on-hill experience. So what I'd like to know is, can we get a commitment from the board? I know you're not going to commit to us tonight about abandoning Project Generations, even though personally I would like to see a yes or no decision on that. But beside that, can we make a can we get a decision from the board? What is the priority over the next 5 years? Is it on-hill or is it lodges? And then I have a second question. So I was wondering if I could get an answer to that one.
Would you like? I'm going to invite Dave up to answer that here at the podium, please.
The reality is we have to balance, okay? And, you know, the focus groups, which is what people are thinking about right now, you have to recognize, focus groups are what people are thinking about right now, their current experience. You have to think longer term, like the 50 years that I talked about, and you have to think about everything in balance. And so, you know, that is the hot seat we're on. We have to think about not only what people are thinking about the here and now, but we have to think about what it's going to be like for our kids and our grandkids. And so, you know, that is where the balance we're striking. And there's a financial impact and an aspect to that. And we have to, that's the job we have. And like all things, there's a balance required. And we need to make sure people have a place to sit, to put their put their skis somewhere. And we need them, you know, to have decent food. And so we also know that the base of the company, or the club, is based on the on-hill experience. But over time, the #2 satisfier at this club, and all clubs like it, is the lodge experience. And food is a big part of that. And so it's our job to balance those.
Okay, so, hey, stay here. So actually, I'm glad you brought up food, because this was brought up several years ago, in fact, by me. I asked our former past president, have you considered bringing the bar and the food in-house? I think we've reached a point in the evolution of our club where we're large enough, important enough, and rich enough, quite frankly, where we could actually probably save money over the long term by bringing food and beverage in-house. Has that been looked at by the board, and can we get a commitment on what the plan is, the concrete plan is for food and beverage going forward? Because quite frankly, the food's expensive, it sucks, and beer costs too much money.
Thank you. All right, Matt, come on up. Matt is the chair of our Food and Beverage Committee.
Hi, thanks for the question. There is no question that food and bar prices are an issue. They were an issue last year. Members have been very vocal about it. Peace Marsh, who is our caterer, it's a 3-year commitment. We're in the 2nd year. We have another year next year. They have improved dramatically from last year to this year. We've worked with them. Prices are up, but product and quality is up as well. So we're hearing that in the focus groups. We're hearing that in the surveys. There's discontent about it, no question. The Food and Beverage Committee is looking at it. We're talking to Peace Marsh. They're being great partners and working with us. But there is no immediate answer for that. We have another year. We're going to keep working with them. And starting next year, we do a review process, as we will every 3 years, to determine what the next steps are, whether that's to bring it in-house, whether it's to keep working with Peace Marsh, or whether it's to find another external provider. And we'll deal with that next year. But we know there's challenges, but we also know that Peace Marsh is working hard to address those challenges, and will continue to work with us this year. So there's no immediate answer, but they have 1 more year, and we'll work with everyone next year to figure it out. Right, yeah, and as part of that, the survey that Jeff mentioned, we have a consulting group coming in, FS Strategies, who will be helping us with determining a variety of different things relating to food and beverage, including costs, including quality. But please remember that we have facilities, in particular the Base Lodge kitchen facility, which is substandard. It is not what they need to deliver an excellent product, and FS Strategies will help us through that whole process. So we are bringing in consultants to help with the overall food and beverage experience.
Andy, come on up. I just said Andy.
Well, my name's Andy McGinnis. My comments are a little bit more about just on hill. One of them was about Millennium, that is one of the best fall lines at the club, but it's been having gates on it every weekend. And not only are the gates down the hill, but they're down the middle of the hill, so it effectively closes the hill. And we watch it, and we don't see anybody skiing the course. Like, we watched it today for an hour and a half, and not one racer went down the course, but the hill is effectively closed. So is there something we can do about that? I understand there has to be gates, but can it be down one side or share the hill or make sure their gates are actually being used? If nobody's using them, just take them down and let us use the hill. And then my second comment is, can we get some bumps somewhere? Because there's been a lot of work going on in the terrain park, which is awesome, that's great, but we need a variety of experiences for skiers, and just if we could take a half a hill or somewhere and put some bumps like we used to have half on Birches, if we could continue that, that would be great. Thank you.
I don't know if Jeff or Dave, do you want to make a comment just on how the choices are made around where terrain's going, or is that more feedback you'd just like to take back for planning, for lane space? Okay, great, thanks.
So thank you, Andy, for the comments. The bumps are a challenge here, as they are in most of southern Ontario. It seems we get some started, then we get some rain, they turn to little ice cubes out on the hill. We will try to build some later in the year when we get some consistently warm weather, like January, in hopefully March. And I just noticed a bunch of seniors there applauding the bumps. I'm thinking, God, I don't like going in them anymore. I'm not sure who's going in them, but Tom said he's an excellent mogul builder, and he'll be working with the groomers and the team, and we'll get some up later in the year.
Do you know where? Porcupine?
Would you like Porcupine? Would anyone else like somewhere else? Birches over there?
We'll take the feedback away.
She said not Birches. We'll take all the feedback into consideration, and we'll try to find a place for some. Birches is probably the best spot, sorry Flo, on skiers left, but just below the steep part of the pitch. We don't have a lot of terrain that lends itself well to bumps, but we'll work on something.
Thanks, Jeff.
Check.
Hi, Bruce Levitt. I've skied at this club long enough that I remember when the South Lodge was the new lodge, and that's my first of two questions. I find it kind of interesting that we've been talking for probably years now about the need to remove the South Lodge, and the hidden little gem in this club is actually the North Lodge, which was... Sorry. and I'm just curious. It somehow was built in the 60s and got a reno, and clearly that reno was much more successful than the reno of the South Lodge, because I never hear any plans of, oh, we need to demolish the North Lodge and replace it. And I don't think I've seen a replacement of that in the 50-year plan. So are we thinking that the South Lodge will actually last for 100 years?
Paul, do you want to comment on the North Lodge, South Lodge? Paul's going to comment on this. There's also another question that came in about North Lodge, so I'm going to just share it with you, and then maybe you can include it in your answer. It was about accessibility of North Lodge.
Right.
So we have accessible parking spots in the North Lodge, but as many of you noticed, it's not a very accessible lodge. So there was a question about how we might make it accessible in the future.
Okay. Bruce is the only person I know at the club who still skis in rear entry boots, by the way.
Sometimes.
Today's the day. Buildings have a useful life, and the North Lodge does as well. So in the long-term plan, we certainly do have plans to continue to maintain that building, and eventually it may need to go. The South Lodge is at the end of its useful life, and without a significant investment right now, it wouldn't be serviceable for much longer. So the capital plan does not include a significant investment in the South Lodge at this point. The North Lodge has had some upgrades done to it recently, and we do have plans to continue to maintain that building for the foreseeable future.
We started putting in the 50-year plan for replacement North Lodge.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's in the plan for it to be replaced. How long in the future, Pete?
I think it's like 35 or 40 years.
30 to 40 years from now.
So it will last 100 years.
Can you
Possibly.
speak about making it accessible?
Yeah, so the question about accessibility of the North Lodge has come up. As we know, entry into that building requires going up a staircase. It's not a building that is easily accessible for people with mobility challenges. So that's definitely on the list of issues that we're looking at right now. And there is legislation in the province around accessibility for people with disabilities, the AOTA legislation, so we're looking at that in some detail right now to see how we can accommodate people with mobility challenges in the North Lodge.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Did you have a second question?
Second question relates to our 50 years of planning, and I was kind of struck by that comment that 3/4 of the ski areas in Canada will close in the next 50 years, and that's got to be pretty sobering for all of us to think of, especially in the context of investing probably $100 million over the next 50 years. And I'm just curious, have we modeled or given thought to how much global warming can the escarpment or this club sustain before we end up in a circumstance where it will be, I'll say, worse than what it was in the 70s before we installed snowmaking and we had good seasons and bad seasons? And just interested in your feedback. Is it at 1.5 degrees? Is it 2 degrees? Is it 2.5 degrees? Is it, how much can we take?
So I know this topic has been talked about at the board, and it is something as we think about the future and planning on. We have not commissioned any studies on that or haven't done any research on it at this point, but it is something that is informing that longer term thinking that Dave's talking about. So I think it's a great question. It's not one we've answered, but it is something we need to be thinking about when we think about the future and what type of investments needed in order to sustain this. So I think that question, I'm probably just going to give it to Dave and the team that's thinking about that long-term strategy. So thank you for bringing that up. We've got about 5 more minutes, so we've got 2 more questions over here at the microphone. I want to make sure we get to you, so come on up.
Hi, I'm Sue Ralph, and I'm sitting getting a little confused. Maybe it's my 60-some-odd years of age brain. But we started off the evening hearing about, as we've just heard, the difficulties a lot of clubs are having and having to close because they can't put the snow on the ground. Well, how are we doing it? How are the clubs that are maintaining their doors to be open? They're investing in snowmaking. They're investing in on the hill. So I don't understand why, if we have that 50-year plan, as we've just talked about again, make it a 20-year plan, make it a 30-year plan, but let's go out to 50 years. If that's what we're aiming for, how can anything other than on the hill expenses be on the plate? Why are we worried about accommodating all sorts of members for generously 3 hours every Saturday afternoon? And that's it, for 9 weeks. So let's even jump to 10 years. And let's say we have these new, wonderful ski clubs, lodges. Are we all going to be sitting on a chair looking at the green hills? I'm not sure that anybody's going to be particularly happy about that. So to say that the clubhouse and lodge experience is really important, to me, that's current issues. And you said on your slides, let's look forward into the future. We saw those 2 Muskoka chairs looking into the future. So are those people that are sitting in the Muskoka chair, are they looking at brown spots? Are they happy that they're out there because everybody else in here is sitting, waiting for something to happen? That's just my 2 cents. The other piece that I wanted to, it's kind of connected. So for years, my husband and I are among the first on the chairlift. We ski the national chair until we can see the V-Hills running. As soon as we do, we head over there. And we stay there until somewhere between 10 and 10:30. We go in, have a cup of coffee, piece of banana bread, and then we're out again, and we ski until 1:30. And we do that to allow the people that need to be in the club, because they've got kids in programs, to be in the club. And it'd be nice if more people would do that. But the point, and we've done that for years, and we'll continue doing that. The reason I'm bringing it up now is because for the last several weekends, we've done the same thing. And I have, at 10:30 in the morning, gone in and had to sort of look around for an empty table for 2 people to sit. Why can't I find an empty table? Because of bags and coats that are on empty tables. And we, last weekend, went in at 10:30, saw a table that had coats and assorted food. There was even, at 10:30, a glass of beer on the table. For the time that we were in the club, it stayed not a single person walked near that table. We left, we skied, we came back at 1:30. It was in the identical situation. Who's fooling who here? People are saving tables for extended periods of time, which means that people who come in right now at noon because their kids are off lessons, they've got to feed their kids. Other people, not lesson people, want to eat. There's nowhere for them to sit. We used to have a very firm rule, no tablecloths. Okay, so there are no tablecloths, but there's other sneaky ways of holding those tables. And I think we need to, I don't know, Natalie, whether you have to put on your mean guy hat or whoever it is, we've got to address that. Because that's taking up space, and when you come in and there's nothing available because you've got coats on it, I just don't think that's fair for other people.
Thank you. Thank you. So thank you so much for that feedback. I think this is exactly why we're capturing things like RFID data to really help us understand the use. And I would say I think that's extraordinary feedback for us all to hear, because it's actually, I think, incumbent upon us to make sure that we are not saving tables, and we can think about how we continue to hold each other accountable to that. So thank you for that feedback. Our last question.
Hi, Peter Dyson. There's been a lot of talk about project generations, maybe the Base Lodge expansion, tearing down the South Lodge. Just a question on the South Lodge, and I know the board is figuring out whether or not to go ahead with the Base Lodge expansion. You don't know those prices because you don't know what you're doing yet. But I've heard the term significant investment quite often for the South Lodge. So what is a significant investment? What is the cost that is this significant investment to get the South Lodge up to a point where it can be maintained and sustained? I get the ski school and racing use the main floor. The loft doesn't get used. We now have a private vendor using the main floor for a chiropractic clinic. How many seats can go in there if they weren't in there? And if Squire John's moved out and the nursery was available to put seats in, we put Squire John somewhere else, i.e. this expansion of the maintenance building that's now being talked about. So what is this significant investment?
The answer is I don't know. But what I do know is that the plan, in order for us to meet all of our objectives, really requires our space to be consolidated. One of our biggest issues is kitchen. So our kitchen is way too small, as you've heard. We are not going to solve that problem by continuing to keep the South Lodge in service. You know, the other issues that we've got around the consolidation of space, there's not going to be satisfied. So investing in that building is not considered to be a good plan is an alternative to expanding the base lodge. So that's, hopefully that answers it somewhat.
So you've heard that you've used the term significant investment though. There's no dollar value to that. It's just that the board doesn't want to spend money on that building.
Yeah, we've not really considered that as an option at this point, no. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, just before we close up, we're going to go back to the question about Millennium and how different gate paths are selected. So Dave, just want to come up and have a couple of comments before we close.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everybody. I just thought I'd elaborate to Andrew's comments as they're quite valid and just to share a little bit of background on some of the planning. And we do try our best to balance to allow for some of our favorite hills to be gate-free. And at times you may see, and it may be over the lunch period or in the day, later in the day, we leave gates up. And we leave those mainly sometimes as a safety indicator, because if we were to remove the gates and not have a visual for members to ski down, there can be some pretty dangerous ruts. So it's a bit of a safety practice we implement. I just wanted to share that. And what I would also like to share too to everyone is I will commit to Millennium gate-free next weekend for everyone to enjoy. And the other challenges at times too, depending on the schedules, like we saw on the chart earlier, on that January 6-7 weekend, everyone is here. There's no teams away at races. So we do have certain weekends that's quite busy. So then we can look to take advantage when our teams do travel to races to free up a lot more of the hills for people to enjoy. So I just wanted to share that and thanks for the feedback. We'll do our best to balance and we'll work with Tom and his team to get some bumps going for people too shortly.
Thanks, Dave. All right, that brings us to the end of the town hall. So I want to thank everyone for coming here today. There was lots of really important topics shared. I know we're all here to take lots of notes and make sure this is an ongoing dialogue. I do want to thank the board members because they're all here to listen. We put in a lot of time to try and solve all these slide puzzle of issues because there's a lot of them. So thank you for your feedback. And there also will be nominations opening soon for additional roles on the board. So if you're interested and want to get more engaged, please consider putting your hat in the ring. It would be wonderful to have the nominating committee review your application. Have a happy Family Day weekend, everyone. We'll see you all soon. Thank you. Great job.
Great job, Megan.
Thanks. Great. You too.
Hi, how are you? Good, nice to see you. Nice to see you as well. So far, not so bad. Up and down, but yeah, it's the way it goes. It comes up well. Most people are happy. Yeah, well, we're very proud of it. It's being well received, and it's club's noticed by all the clubs for what we're doing. So yeah, it's good. Paul Smith, right? Yeah. So Natalia introduced us via email a few weeks ago. Reza. So we never got a chance. So likewise, we never got a chance to meet.